Game 2 of the NBA Finals, Miami Heat, Denver Nuggets. And we picked this game up in the fourth quarter, and the Heat go on a run. Gabe Vincent knocks down that three. Vincent had 21 points. Duncan Robinson had 10 points in the fourth quarter alone. And the Heat were rolling at this point. So much so, Jimmy Butler, they had 17 threes they knocked down, shot 48% from beyond the arc. Now, Denver would come back, though. That Jamal Murray three, he had 18 points. And then Nikola Jokic gets the offensive board. Kick it to Murray. Murray, another big three. It was 11-2 run by the Nuggets. And then the Heat trying to close it out, up three. Butler misses this three, and the Nuggets don't call timeout. They're going to try and tie it up. They get the ball to Murray. Murray, guarded by Jimmy Butler. Step back three is no good, and it's the Miami Heat who win game 2. Series now tied up at 1 game apiece. Michael Malone called out the team for his effort. A reporter asked Jeff Green about the effort as well.
He had to talk about effort in the post-game locker room.
Me too.
That's what I was going to ask. Are you perplexed that at this stage of the season that's even a talking point?
Yeah. It's the finals, man. Like, our energy has to be better. We can't come out like we did, and, we have to be better.
What Uncle Jeffy had to say there. Wendy, I know you were there last night. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, Jeff Green's a good player, and he had a nice game off the bench, but why is he on the podium? He's on the podium because 3 of the Nuggets' 5 starters walked out of the locker room not wanting to talk about it. And there's the starters that got boat raced. Those guys, the bench actually carried a load for the Nuggets. That's the question I have. Michael Malone obviously read the way this game went, and knowing his team, felt he needed to jump them. This team hadn't lost. I had to look this up. They hadn't lost since May 7th. That was the last time they had to deal with a loss, almost 1 full month. And you could kind of tell their effort level didn't match the gravity. And if you watch the way the Heat were moving and the way the Nuggets were moving, it was obviously a difference, as Perk just said a few minutes ago. But I would just say that there was a lot of that in Game 1 as well. The Heat were able to generate a ton of open looks in Game 1. They just didn't make them. In Game 2, they did. So that's what Michael Malone, I think, is reacting to here. He sounded some alarms with his team after Game 1 because he felt like they might have skated away without their best performance, and his team didn't react. So now we went to the next level, and we will definitely see how they react going into Game 3 on Wednesday.
Big Perk, I see your face. You've won a championship. What's your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are not with the Nuggets. They're all with the Heat. I thought the Heat did a better job defensively of actually contesting shots. I thought they did a great job of communicating switches. I thought they did an excellent job of chasing and getting over screens. And look, I get it, right? Mike Malone want the Nuggets to play harder. Okay, cool. But the Heat did a lot of great things last night. And I think it was more so the Heat and how they came out and imposed their will, and less about the Nuggets. And I want to say this about the Miami Heat real quick. The word trust, we hear Jimmy Butler talk about what these guys are capable of doing in the locker room. It was so many times where I wanted Jimmy Butler, me personally, last night to say, go, take over the game. And he just kept trusting his teammates. He was standing in the corner at times, not even being involved with the offense, letting Duncan Robinson make plays on the weak side, letting Gabe Vincent use the high pick and roll with Bam and get to his mid-range pull-ups. This team really have trust. This team never hang their head. You never see bad body language. You never see them pouting. They jumped out to a double-figure lead, and guess what? The Nuggets went on a 26-5 run, went up by 12. The Heat just kept pushing, kept trusting those guys through the storm on the road, and that's what you love to see. That's the true definition of a team right there, the Miami Heat.
It's interesting because you hear the Nuggets talking a lot about effort. You hear Perk saying, no, it was more about what the Heat did. You sipping that tea. What does Monica McNutt think about all this?
I'm going to split the difference. I think you saw a defense that can travel. And honestly, I'm watching this game last night, and it gave me flashbacks of Gonzaga and Baylor in the national championship game in terms of Baylor having dealt with some adversity and Gonzaga having had that undefeated run, but Baylor's defense traveled. The Miami Heat defense is going to travel. I think for me, they're still living and dying by the three-point line. And so are they more the game 1 team from 3 or are they the game 2 team from 3, right? And so I think that's going to be something important to watch. Watching this game, though, in terms of a team that has more room to grow and be better, I think we all would agree that it was the Nuggets, despite what the Heat did well defensively. So much in game 2, you saw, all right, this one back cut didn't work. That's the end of our actions in terms of trying to get open for Jokic to find us. I think there are more wrinkles for the Nuggets to apply offensively to get a little bit more creative. There's definitely room for them to be much better defensively and to be far more focused in clutch time.
You know, that's interesting because Jokic had just 4 assists after having 14 in game 1. But what do you got, Kurt? What do you got?
But see, it was a point, I believe it was in the third quarter, in the second half, where Kevin Love got switched out on Michael Porter Jr. And Michael Porter Jr. tried to get in his bag. He tried to give Kevin Love everything and more, and Kevin Love was sliding those puppies. And it brought me back to Kevin Love in Cleveland when they came back from being down 3-1, and he got caught up. And he got caught on the island with Steph Curry. See, this was more about the Miami Heat because the internet went crazy like, oh, why did Michael Porter not be able to beat Kevin Love? Because of the experience, because of the willpower, because I'm going to buckle down and actually play defense. Again, this was more about the Miami Heat.
Okay, Perk. Since you felt the need to jump in on that, I'm going to give you that. I think the Heat played well. But you and I both saw at 3:47 to go, that offensive rebound that bounces back to Jimmy, that's a 3 in the corner for Caleb Martin. Bam, threw the ball off the backboard. I don't know what happened. The Heat come up with that one as well. And so, yes, in totality, the Heat played a much better game. I will give you that, Perk. There is no doubt in my mind. However, you watch this thing closely, the Nuggets in clutch were a little bit out of character. Now, we can blame that on the Heat, and maybe this is more true to what it's going to look like in this series, but you got to admit, there's room for the Nuggets to be better. The Heat almost played flawless.
Wendy, why Jokic, listen, he had 41 last night. He had buckets. Why does Denver seem to lose, though, when Jokic scores big?
Yeah, this is a good question. And I just don't have the direct answer because by the actual numbers, the Nuggets offense was better in game 2 than they were in game 1. If you look at their offensive efficiency, it was awesome. It wasn't that the offense wasn't working. Obviously, Jokic has the ability to downshift into this style. I suspect, I wish I could tell you I know for sure, I suspect that when the other Nuggets players aren't as involved offensively, that they're not quite the same defensively, that their defensive effort possibly may be affected by the lack of being involved on offense. And Jokic would tell you this. In game 1, he took 3 shots in the first half, and they were killing. He would prefer to play that way than the way he played last night because the Nuggets operate better as a team playing that style of basketball. So I will, definitely you have to not let your defense be affected by your offense. But like I said, to use a line from Monty Williams that I learned from him, don't get happy on the farm. I kind of think the Nuggets, having not lost for a month, might not have had the same level of desperation as the Heat going into this game.
Go ahead, Perk.
What, are you making all these noises?
I know. Go ahead, Perk.
Golly.
No, I'm just saying, but Wendy, think about this. In the first half of game 1, Aaron Gordon set the tone in the first quarter, him and Jamal Murray. Why? Because the Heat was small. All of a sudden, Eric Spoelstra put Kevin Love into the lineup. We don't see that same energy out of Aaron Gordon. We're not able to see those duck in and seals that Jokic was able to do, those high-low passes. Again, this was about the Heat, the adjustments that they made. Think about this for a second. Caldwell Pope, Bruce Brown, those guys kind of somewhat had it going in game 1. Okay, all of a sudden I started to see Gabe Vincent and Max Strus and those guys slide their puppies. They just left out of the series where they had to guard Derek White, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. Do you think they're not capable of actually locking in? And again, the biggest adjustment on the Heat side was Jimmy Butler being a dog and guarding Jamal Murray. Those were adjustments. This was not about the Nuggets. This was about the Heat last night.
Hey, Perk, I know you do all the shows on television. Oh, sorry, Wendy. Go ahead, Wendy.
Perk, I agree that the strategy clearly made sense. It limited the Nuggets' offensive options. The Nuggets shot 52%. They didn't lose the game on the offensive end. They lost the game defensively. I agree with you that Jimmy Butler was better on Jamal Murray. I agree with you that putting Love in there limited what they could do with the post-ups. But the Nuggets shot 52% and scored 108 points. They were better in Game 2 offensively than Game 1. It's a strange thing, but that number is what I went to bed thinking about last night. Jokic averaging 42 points in the Nuggets' losses in the playoffs. There's something to that. And Eric Spoelstra identified that too.
Perk, I know you're getting ready for you guys shows all day. You don't have to win on this show. We're just having a conversation. We agree that Miami Heat's defense was solid. So just relax. We hear you. The Heat played great defense.
He's basically saying I'm the DJ Khaled of ESPN. That's all I do is win. He said that's all I do. Now, is this enough for all of y'all to change y'all's mind that the Heat can win this series? Because you know Perk believes the Heat are going to win this series.
Listen, I did not rule it out going into this series. I did pick Denver in 6. I think I could be wrong, and I would not be shocked. Again, for me, how is this three-point shooting going to travel, right? When I watched last night's game, the Nuggets got punched in the mouth in terms of physicality. I think that they can respond, but I don't know.
We'll see. We're going to talk a lot more about this game. Look, Perk, you got her tongue tied here.
Wow.
Hey, coming up, what do the Lakers need to do this offseason?